quick question. Just to clarify, did I remember correctly, you're a doctor as well, correct?
Yes, I'm an eye surgeon in Bowling Green, Kentucky. It's about an hour north of Nashville.
Let's say perhaps you were to run and then win, and you enter the den of thieves with the rest of the politicians. Would you be able to hold true to your beliefs and the Constitution and your oath the way your father has?
I think so. I think what's important is that I wouldn't be trying to win an election just to be in politics. I'm very happy with my career as it is. I have an entirely other life. In fact, my wife would prefer that I not run for office. So, you know, I think that it is. You need people of principle, and it's sometimes hard to determine who those people are in advance. But I think a lot of the people that have been in politics their whole life, and that is their whole career, you can tell that it's more important for them to win than it is to believe in anything. And I truly think a man of principle could make a difference. For example, if you had someone in the U.S. Senate like my father, when it came time to one of the most important votes that any congressman will ever have, which is war, you would have had someone stand up in the U.S. Senate and say, look, we don't go to war without a formal declaration of war. And there's a very good chance, if we would have had a formal vote on declaration of war with Iraq, that there never would have been a war with Iraq.
Go ahead and take the floor. Give us your speech.
We can't hear you!
All right, I think I'm going to stand up on something. My whole life is going to try to stand on something. Anne Rand, who many of you may know, came out with Who is John Galt? Well, I'd like to say, who are we to question the need for a central bank? Some would say, that's un-American. Some would say, that's ill-advised. Some would say, that's extreme. Well, if they do, I would ask, what do you say to Thomas Jefferson, who opposed the first central bank? What do you say to James Madison, who opposed the first central bank? Or what do you say to Andrew Jackson, who opposed the second bank and killed the second bank? Andrew Jackson famously said, I do not believe that the national debt is a national necessity or a national blessing, but rather a curse upon the republic, inasmuch as it is calculated to raise around the administration of moneyed aristocracy dangerous to liberty. Andrew Jackson understood that the Federal Reserve is equivalent to having a national debt. They're two parts of the same question. You can't have a large national debt without having a Federal Reserve. If you want to get rid of the Federal Reserve, you have to believe in making the deficit smaller. We would have to have a vastly smaller national debt, and that's why many of us would like to get rid of the Federal Reserve. I don't oppose the Federal Reserve because it is secretive, though it is. I don't oppose the Federal Reserve because it lacks congressional restraint, although it does. I don't oppose the Federal Reserve because it's a private cartel, though it is. I oppose the Federal Reserve primarily because it wreaks havoc on the economy. We need to understand, and this is the most important probably question of the last 30 or 40 years, what caused the panic of 2008? Was it capitalism or was it the Federal Reserve?
The Federal Reserve!
Most economists have decided and would agree that price controls are bad. All you have to do is look at the Soviet Union and see what happens when you try to fix the price of bread. They had no bread or they had too much bread. They had food lines and they had rationing. But if you ask economists, should we have a Federal Reserve, most of them still don't get it. But what is happening and what is the price of money? Interest rates are basically the price of money. So it's the same as setting the price of bread. When you set the price of money, you inevitably will make bad decisions. And that's what happened over the period of time between 2002 and 2008, after the dot-com crisis, they decided they would lower the interest rates to zero. Interest rates are a barometer within the economy, and when the economy gets overheated, they naturally will rise. But as the economy became overheated after 2002, as you approach 2004, 5, and 6, you've got an alarming bubble in the housing market. This did not happen as a consequence of capitalism. And this is not an academic debate, this is an important debate, because whoever wins this debate will decide the history and the future of this country. In the 1930s, they had this debate, and we had this debate through the 1940s and 50s, but who won the debate? The big government people won the debate, and they said that the American Depression was caused by capitalism. Consequently, we got more and more intervention into the marketplace, and more a slow ebb and flow towards socialism. Now it's not a slow ebb and flow, it's a quick ebb and flow as we nationalize the banks and are purchasing equity in banks. And believe it or not, they're not even letting the banks get rid of the government money. They won't let the banks pay back the government money. Because it's about control. Now that they have equity in the banks, we're losing control of private institutions. When you control the interest rates, you control the lifeblood of the economy. When you make them too low or too low, the boom got created. People say, oh, it was stupidity or it was greed. Well, one man's greed is another man's profit. When it's my money, you might look at it as greed. When it's your money, you look at it as your profit. Profit has always been with us. Profit is the invisible hand that Adam Smith talked about. Profit is what drives the efficient distribution of goods in a society. Profit is good. What we had happen was not stupidity. It was not some new vice that man has not always had. We need to lay the blame where the blame should go. The Federal Reserve caused the bubble and caused the panic. I think there's great progress being made. Most of you have seen on the internet, we now have 91 co-sponsors for the Federal Transparency Act, H.R. 1207. A practical thing you can do if your local congressmen have not signed on to 1207, bug them, write them letters, call them on the phone. This is something that really has a chance of passing. Barney Frank has announced that it will get a hearing sometime this year in committee. Whether or not it passes is unknown, but it will get a hearing. It has an interesting coalition of both true conservatives and some people from the left who think that the Federal Reserve is unaccountable and more at the will of Wall Street, which may also have some truth to it. But the bottom line is there's a coalition of left and right coming together here that believes that the Federal Reserve needs to have more scrutiny. It's not the ultimate end the Fed bill that we like, but it's getting there. And it has a chance of passing. So do what you can to get more co-sponsors for us. We'll come up for a vote. And it is something that I think you can influence your congressman on. So I'd like to close by saying, you repeat after me, and the Fed.